I think agencies need to be one thinking about this. They need those teams internally that are saying, what do we do when? Because the models are going to be able to do everything you don't think is possible today, they will do in the next 3 years.
Hi, I'm Greg Stuart, CEO of MMA Global, the international nonprofit trade association for CMOs who are focused on architecting a new future of marketing.
I'm Rex Briggs, an author, market researcher, measurement inventor, and entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about this. And, listen, I think, training's important, the AI trying to understand sort of where people are having success, where they're making mistakes, where there's failure. I mean, I think everybody's sort of struggling, as we know from some of the people that we've talked about this. And, there's just a big opportunity with somebody like today's guest to really focus in on that. So.
Now, Greg, are you talking about other people's mistakes in AI or some of your mistakes in AI?
Yeah, well, let's not. Yeah, there we go. That's you're very funny.
We'll get into that later.
I mean, listen, right? Yeah, wait, that's not my mistake. Are we talking about my mistakes overall or my mistakes in AI? I mean, listen, the former was a much longer list. But listen here, this is the idea. Our guest today is somebody who's on a very similar mission, I think, to some of what MMA tries to help with advanced marketers. He comes from the agency world, but today focus on really spreading the AI gospel, so to speak, and does a lot of training and help marketers get there. So Paul Roetzer is founder and CEO of both a consultancy, SmarterX, but I think we're mostly interested in his Marketing AI Institute. He co-hosts his own podcast. So for those of you who are out there, the Artificial Intelligence Show podcast, you should check that out. He also spends a lot of time answering questions about AI. He has events that he does around this. There's a bunch of good stuff to really help marketers. So it's our chance to kind of get a condensed set of everything that he's taught everybody in the last year, I guess, on our podcast here. Paul, welcome.
It's great to be with you both. It is a wild space, and every week gets a little bit crazier, and the models get a little bit smarter, and we're all trying to figure out what it means to us as marketers.
Well, Paul, I'm really excited to have you on the show because you have just a whole nother perspective of working with marketers. And I'd love to hear what you see as the good, bad, and ugly in terms of marketers' adoption of AI to really drive their business forward. Maybe start with the good, some of the people that you think are just knocking it out of the park, and then talk about some of the ugly where you just see people just haven't woken up and noticed and done anything differently with AI compared to how they were doing things, say, 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, at a starting point, we're still just really early. I think a lot of people feel like they've fallen behind or like this stuff's just really abstract and it's hard to learn. And maybe they've dabbled with ChatGPT or some other tool, but they're just not there yet. And what I tell people is most people are in that starting position. I teach an intro to AI class. I've taught it since November of 2021 every month. So we're going on like number 47. We've had over 30,000 people go through this class. And we still get 12 to 1,500 people every month with zero paid ad dollars. It's just people pour in to take this class. I teach for 30 minutes, then we answer Q&A. We'll get 100 plus questions every month on this class. So I think my main message to people there is like, it's okay. Like if you're just starting to figure it out, a lot of the marketing teams we meet with, I travel the world doing keynotes on this. We run workshops. I do a little bit of advisory work, but honestly, most of it is through these one-to-many environments. They're trying to figure it out. They're piloting it just like you. Like maybe they're doing something. They've gone and got like a writer or a Jasper for their marketing team, or they're doing ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini. But most of them are struggling to find those core use cases. They're not like personalizing use cases for each person on the team. The writers do this, the SEO people do that, the email. What's happening is that where they get it wrong is companies buy these licenses and then they just hand them out thinking people are going to figure out what use cases to apply them to. And so the companies I've seen do this really well, they go get the licenses, but they'll start with a pilot group. Like let's say we get 10 people on the marketing team. We help them identify priority use cases, and then we give them 90 days and we actually train them how to use it. And then they become internal champions and they teach the other people. So that's the way I think to do it. The companies I've seen do it really well. That's what they're doing is they're putting like AI literacy and training at the core and not just thinking this is go buy a tool, give it to everybody, and we solve everything.
Wow, that's great, Paul. Hey, Paul, what Rex though asked you, you didn't really name names. I think he was trying to get you to name names there. So who do you think of the big marketers? I mean, listen, I'll just put out there, Kellanova, I think is phenomenal.
Okay.
I mean, I think they've done an amazing job in really adapting this. I know that GM's really making huge strides in trying to get there. I don't know. Anybody else you want to? Not to say others aren't too, just the ones I know off the top of my head. And
Yes.
I'm curious what you see them do more.
Yeah, so we had like Cleveland Clinic comes to mind from a healthcare company, local company to me. I'm in Cleveland, but they spoke at our conference last year. So like some of the people I know who are doing things well, I can't publicly discuss. Because we have NDAs with some of these people. But like Cleveland Clinic publicly, I can say they're ones that have prioritized the education and training, gone out and got licenses and work with the internal procurement team and legal team. And because in these big enterprises, this is where the roadblock often is like they can't do things. They can't just go out and get ChatGPT because legal or IT or procurement isn't allowing it. So Cleveland Clinic comes to mind. Moderna comes to mind from a big brand perspective. OpenAI, I know, had a great case study with what Moderna had done internally. Again, prioritizing education and training. Tomorrow.io, not a big brand, like $1 billion plus company, space technology, satellite company, but they have a team of like 6 people in their marketing, but they punch up their weight. Like I think they're a team of 50 because they've infused it and made it part of the culture. So that's a company. Dan Slagan's the CMO there, like a top 50 CMO. So they're doing really cool stuff. And I think, depending on the industry you look at, it's hard sometimes to find those case studies. Like the people who are doing it well aren't talking that much about what they're doing. We actually just recently formed a marketing AI industry council, partner with Google Cloud on this, and we're trying to kind of identify a lot of these things. Like where are those the people that are doing it best, but also what does best look like 12 months from now? Because the world's changing, search is changing, publishing, ads, like it's all changing so fast. And we don't know what it looks like to be doing this the right way 12 months from now.
Well, let's unpack that a bit more and go ahead and describe what does good look like today and what do you expect it to look like between today and the next 90 days? So we can, like maybe Tomorrow.io is a great example of how is it that they're able to punch above the weight? What is it that they're doing from the briefing to the creative development to the analysis, maybe check off a couple things that you think make them, a great example.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ones I've seen work best are they're empowering their people to experiment. Because the way I think about innovation in this space is bi-directional. So me as a CEO or a CMO of a major company, they can go out and they can identify use cases and they can push those down and say, here's the tech you're going to be allowed to use, here's how you're going to use it. But most of the innovation we're seeing is actually coming from the bottom up. It's the practitioner level who's allowed to go get like a Descript and find more ways to, innovate with podcasting and do the podcast more efficiently or run campaigns more efficiently. So I think that when I think about like adoption within enterprises, the way I've been explaining this lately is if you just take a marketing team and you take your pick, you can do Anthropic, Claude, Google Gemini, or OpenAI ChatGPT. Those are like the 3 main ones. If you just pick one of those platforms and you go heavy on it and you teach people how to use it, you go deep into the product and the capabilities of that product, and then you mix in the deep research capabilities that Google or OpenAI have. Deep research is transformational, in my opinion, in marketing. And then NotebookLM, awesome. And then you sprinkle in things like a Descript or a Jasper or a Writer, and you just kind of focus on a few select tools. You can transform your marketing. It doesn't. I think too many times we think this is like too big and there's just thousands of tools and how could we ever figure out which ones to use? Just narrow it down and take each role on your team and say, okay, what should our writers be using? SEO, ad people, email people. What should they be using? Social, and then find 1 or 2 tools that they can become expert in. And don't worry about the latest model that comes out every other week and thinking you have to jump to it. So I just try and teach this very practical approach of find 3 to 5 use cases per person that they can just use to transform. And then if you have a couple on couple people on your team who love experimentation, want to test 5 new tools a week, great, have those people, but focus on excellence with a few tools that can transform marketing.
Good advice. I like that.
Hey, Paul. So what are, listen, we've kind of framed it ourselves a little bit and heard others use this, it's focused. There's a lot of focus on efficiency. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of focus on marketing effectiveness. And then, I'd say the third element of the whole thing is wild, crazy ass new business ideas. We've not seen anybody do number 3 yet, but I guess where are you seeing the focus of marketers today Is it around efficiency? And then where do you think they're getting the most success around efficiency?
Yeah, efficiency and productivity are the two things that everybody thinks AI is for. So,
Yep.
and we do a state of industry report every year, state of marketing report every year, and we see that in the data. Like that's what people think about because they think about it as like a writing tool. They think about it as a planning tool, summarization, transcription. So you start thinking about it within the tasks that you traditionally perform. My argument is to the point you're making, Greg, is the people who are going to like really accelerate here and drive growth are the ones who think about it as an innovation tool, as a revenue tool, as a way to identify new markets, new products, perform focus groups in totally new and innovative ways. Like those are the people that I think are going to really get ahead because it's kind of commoditized to be able to take these things and write more efficiently. Like everybody can do that. It's easy to do, but to take like a deep learning tool or a reasoning model and start being better at strategic planning, like do things more effectively. I did something last night where I did a research project for a meeting I had this morning that would have honestly taken me 3 days to complete. And it did it in the 10 to 13 minutes. I was brushing my teeth and checking on my daughter to make sure she was asleep. Like I came back and my phone had built this whole research brief. I ran an agency for 16 years before I sold it. It was better than any senior strategist had ever created at my agency.
Better than anything.
Yeah, that's the thing is I don't think people realize how powerful these things are if you know how to use them.
Okay.
Yeah, you're talking about deep research. I think that's such a good one just to pause for a moment, especially if you have the paid ChatGPT version. You get a certain number of deep research ones you can do per month. I was also doing something last night. I wanted to investigate a company we might partner with, and gave it the specs about the company. I wanted to know where they got their data from, and it looked at 21 different sources, and 8 minutes later had all the key things I needed to do. And you're totally right. I mean, that would have been something either we wouldn't have done the due diligence for before, or we would have taken a lot of time and burned a lot of human labor capital to do that. If that's one of the killer apps that you think that's just like obvious, like do today, what are 2 or 3 other ones that you think are obvious, do today? This is a thing that you can use as a litmus test on your own department to see, where you're at. What else would you put on that list?
Yeah, I mentioned a couple of them earlier. So NotebookLM, I think, is similar to deep research. Like if you know how to use it, it can be transformative within the organization. We're on a podcast. I love Descript. We use it as a massive, augment what our team is capable of, do things we never did before kind of stuff. For example, taking every podcast and using AI to cut up the video clips that then go onto the reels and the shorts and things like that. So, I think tools like that are just so transformational. But the way I always advise it is like, look at the campaigns you're already running and just find a tool to do that campaign better, like not just faster, but better. And that's a great way to do it. So like I built a campaigns GPT, which is a free custom GPT. And you can literally do that. Like, hey, I want to do a lead gen campaign. I want to do a customer conversion or a customer upsell campaign or whatever it is. And it'll actually help you build a plan and identify the tasks in that plan and how to use AI to do it. So that's the thing is like, I think what people often forget is you can just go ask the AI how to use the AI. Say, I'm a chief marketing officer. I'm a VP of marketing. I'm head of demand gen. How could I be using ChatGPT to help me do my job? It'll answer that for you. Like if you don't know where to start, just ask it.
Hey, Paul, that's all interesting at sort of the individual level, and I do agree with you that there's so much that we can be, done with that, especially around deep research. I mean, it really is powerful. It's unbelievable. I mean, that was another, dare I say, OpenAI moment for me when I saw that. I was like, geez, just like 2 years ago. Okay, but what about at the enterprise level? You referenced some of that earlier. Like a lot of people are sort of they're looking at transcripts from customer service calls. There's some looking at transcripts from sales calls, and they're trying to aggregate information. Say, what do you see at the enterprise level from building efficiency within a company or productivity in a company? Do you have examples of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you hit on one of them. Summarization is critical. So every meeting, being able to have your AI note taker there. If you're in Zoom or Microsoft or Google, they all have them. You can have an Otter, whatever the third party one is, you might want to have show up. So I think that's a big one, and not just summarization, but actions based on it. So these things are getting really good where they have speaker identification built in. They can take actions based on it. taking one ad, creative and spinning it into 100 ad creatives, whether it's the copy itself, the creative itself, that's a big one. Looking at taking like data from campaigns, uploading that and saying, okay, we want to build a new campaign. Here's the last 5 campaigns we ran. Help us optimize the next campaign strategy based on it. Here's our top 10 performing emails. Write the next 5 emails in this sequence. Like, anything we do, what I always tell people is break your job into a series of tasks. Just make a list of all the things you do and then find ways to use AI to make you better at each of those things. In some cases, you may be automating tasks, but in many cases, it's just there to assist. I do it like, this is a really simple example, but my keynote speeches, to take the descriptions I have written and say, like, let me make these better, to build a strategic brief. Here's my current model that my team uses. Put it into ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. Say, hey, how would you improve this? Take the 3 outputs from that, get the final product, and make that the new strategic brief that's now trained as a GPT. And now anytime on my enterprise team someone wants to build a strategy, they just use the GPT to do it. So I don't know. I think that there's so much of just taking the best of us, the best of our editors, the best of our writers, the best of our strategists, and having them like work with the AI to create these GPTs that can help people do their jobs better.
Yeah, the custom GPTs are an important point. I'm glad you brought that up, because we did at Claritas, where I'm chief AI officer, we did a hackathon, and it was, people could volunteer to participate in the teams. We had about 50 people, do different teams, and most of them use custom GPT to build it. To me, that seems like that's the gateway drug to better productivity. After that, we want people to be able to use the API and build their own workflows and systems. But man, it's so easy to start with custom GPT. Tell me more about what you've seen successful.
Yeah, honestly, it goes back to that. If you could just pick 3 to 4 or 5 things to do, custom GPTs is right at the top of that list. I built one in December called Co-CEO. I actually did a free webinar where I just taught people how to do it. I actually gave them the prompt I used to do it. And I just basically built a strategic advisor and thought partner. And I use this thing like 10 times a day. And I just trained it on our business. Here's the fundamentals. Here's our revenue model. Here's what we're trying to do growth wise. I need you to do these like 10 things for me, like with me. And so I just talked to it. And my point to anybody was, you could build a anything, CMO, VP of marketing, like whatever you want, and just have it there as your partner. But so one enterprise, we did do a custom GPT project with same idea that you're talking about, Rex, where we actually went in and said, okay, look at the communications team, look at the marketing team, look at the design team, like just work with everybody and try and figure out what are the things we could do that would like have the widest like horizontal value within this organization, and then try and create some custom GPTs to help them do it. And it was wildly successful. So they're now moving into phase 2 with that. So I do, like, if you did nothing else, if you just took an enterprise marketing team and said, we're going to build like 1 or 2 GPTs for each person on this team, look at all the tasks they do and like, let's just build one, you would unlock value. And you would get a lot of internal support from people who maybe aren't getting it, like don't really understand why ChatGPT is a thing and why they should be using it. Build them a custom GPT to help them do their job, and they'll get it real fast.
Hey, Paul. What about from an advertising effectiveness? I don't know if you guys get into or marketing effectiveness. You guys get into any of that with MAI at all? Or
yeah, we have an AI for advertising blueprint and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I'm talking. Talk a little, what's in that? Maybe just tell me what's in that, because I think my question is really going towards what are we doing to really improve marketing advertising effectiveness?
Yeah, I think so. You can do things with like a ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, where you're doing kind of what we talked about earlier. You're manually finding the best ads. You're kind of training it on the personas. Like you can do a lot of manual work, but there's also third-party companies that are building specific solutions around this. Off the top of my head, I don't have any names for you, but they're trying to actually build specifically for the advertising space, where all that data lives in there, that the machine's constantly learning. As new campaigns go out, it learns from that. You can do some of that, like Google's going to offer this stuff too, like Meta does it with Facebook. They're trying to infuse the AI. Amazon does it with their ads. They're all trying to make their ads smarter. They're trying to predict how much you should spend, when you should spend it, which channel you should spend it on. And so I think if you're spending a lot of ad dollars, I would be seriously looking at not only like helping with the copyright and the creative through, various tools, but an actual platform that is designed specifically to help you maximize ad dollars. That was actually one of like the early, when I started the Marketing Institute in 2016, one of the first companies we looked at was like, I don't know if they're still around even. It was Albert. They were a New York-based company. They were a publicly traded company. And that was what they were doing. They were,
them. Yeah.
okay. So they would take an ad, they would run like 30,000 variations over like 48 hours to figure out the winning ads. And then they would like maximize the dollars, and they would actually reallocate to that specific channel while you were sleeping. And so that was 2017, 2018 stuff. So I'm sure that space has gotten way better. And that was pre-Gen AI. Like, you couldn't do the creative with it. So now imagine mixing the predictive modeling of like what to spend, where, and when, with the AI actually developing the creative on the fly to meet in real time demand. Yeah, there's a ton going on in that space. But I don't personally. We don't manage
Briggs
billions
can do
of dollars.
that right now with his campaign for Possible. But it's
we're actually the first marketer. We're the first marketer we've seen that is optimizing using machine learning across channel.
Okay.
Yeah, which is interesting that it's to your point that the technology has existed in various incarnations for almost a decade now, and yet marketers' adoption has been somewhat slow, I would say. And I'm curious what you attribute that pattern to. I mean, maybe part of it's just as people begin to use their own custom GPTs, they get more comfortable with it, they look for more use cases. But is there something else that you think creates friction where things that you said optimizing while you're sleeping hasn't been something that's taken off before? And do you think we're at that crossing the chasm moment where we're about to see it take off? What's your take, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting there. But I mean, honestly, when I started Marketing Institute in 2016, I thought by 2020 it was game over. Like, I didn't think we would need an AI institute by 2020, because to me it was obvious that AI was going to change everything. But I was kind of lonely in that belief. And so it took ChatGPT for everyone else to sort of pop up and be like, whoa, what the hell's going on? And so I think like when I look out ahead as to like, where are we going? When is adoption going to catch up? Why isn't it so prevalent yet? Our own research we're going on 5 years now for this report, lack of education and training. We asked that exact question, like, what is the barrier to adoption in your company? Lack of education and training, 67% of people chose that. It's been number one by far every year. And number two is lack of awareness and understanding. So the reason it doesn't happen in many organizations is because they don't understand yet how these things work. They don't know what deep research is. They have no clue that stuff exists. They know ChatGPT is there, but they don't know what to do about it. Maybe in big enterprises, what we see all the time is they're given Copilot licenses from Microsoft, and they're not trained how to use them. So they're just supposed to like, okay, what? It makes my emails better, or like it can help my Word doc improve. Like, they don't know what to do. And part of that is a flaw of the AI model companies themselves, is they're just creating the smartest, most powerful models they can, and they just put them out into the world. It's not their job to teach you how to use them. But I mean, ChatGPT has 400 million users? I just saw a tweet from Sam. They added 1 million in the last 24 hours, basically. So they're moving so fast. They're not preparing people. And that's why AI literacy to me is at the core of everything. Like, the companies that do this best, they teach their people how to do it. They get them licenses to things, but then they actually show them what to do with those licenses versus just buying them and sitting there.
So, and Paul, back to my original thesis, that there's marketing departments who are focused on efficiency. They're focused on sort of effectiveness, marketing improvement and performance. But any wild, crazy ass new ideas, and like the best example, I think if we could maybe debatable. I'll leave that for others. But mobile, the killer app was Uber. Right, that was the thing that really reset. Not that the apps, maybe some could say apps were just themselves, but Uber really is what changed marketing forever, because it changed the whole customer orientation to a company. Like, I want to know where the damn car is, I want to know when it's getting there, and I want to have trust in the system and so on. And Uber figured that out better. Okay, that's a crazy new idea. Mm-hmm. Do you have any crazy new ideas that you've seen anybody execute? Don't name names here. You're fine to keep it. We can be more. Anybody going there yet? We've not seen it, by the way. Rex and I asked the question a lot.
No, I think that all the model companies, all the SaaS companies are trying to figure it out. So agents is a big thing, you know,
So
and
all the talk
again,
today,
like,
right?
yeah, what are they is kind of a hazy, fuzzy thing. How autonomous are they? Sometimes you think that they are really autonomous when in reality they're actually not in most cases. So I think that people are trying to push on agents. They're trying to push on reasoning. They're trying to find, when you get to the enterprise, like, where is the play? I mean, obviously ChatGPT is having a ton of success cracking into the enterprise. They're dominating that space. Gemini's trying to figure it out. Microsoft's trying to figure it out. I think, like, at the moment, my assumption is it's building like a marketer GPT, basically. So we were just talking about this on our podcast. The vibe marketing is sort of like this hot thing all of a sudden people are talking about. But it's this idea that I can just go in and be like, all right, we're launching a new product in 30 days. I need to build a plan. And boom, like I just build my plan in GPT. All right, cool. Like I need to develop the social media shares. And it just starts developing. And so I'm just going. I'm just in the moment and I'm just creating the campaign, creating the assets, doing the planning, all in this like stream of thought. And so I think that there's a chance that that becomes an unlock. Like if you look at what Microsoft recently did, they announced Researcher and Analyst as two standalone like AI tools, but they're actually basically just GPTs trained to do specific things. And so I said on our podcast, like, well, what's to stop someone from building a marketer one, like a writer one, an accountant one, a lawyer? Like it's all it takes is to like take the existing tech. We don't even need breakthroughs and just customize it like a NotebookLM was. It's like that was all that tech was sitting there. They just bundled it. They productized it. And so I think what's happening, and I said this on our Road to AGI podcast I recently did, the models are being commoditized. Like there is no more 2-year lead like OpenAI got with GPT-4. We're now looking at like 3 months, in some cases like 3 weeks, where the best model sits at the top of the boards and then the next one comes out. So what needs to happen now is data, distribution, and productization, I believe, are the 3 things that matter. And so to unlock that Uber moment for mobile, like to do that for AI, I think that's what you're trying to find is like, what is the product we could build in the marketing space that just changes everything? And I don't know who it is either. Like I've seen a lot of things that I can and can't talk about. And like, I think a lot of the big companies are trying to figure this out too. And I don't know what it is, but I think it has some mixture of data distribution and productization in it.
Talk a little bit more about data distribution and productization. Maybe start with data distribution, unpack what you're thinking.
Yeah.
About there.
So like, I'll use HubSpot as an example. I'm intimately familiar with HubSpot. We use it to run our business. So, you know, this isn't any insider information. They have a whole bunch of unique data that is not in the training set for ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. So whether that's their anonymized all millions of user data, I don't know that they would legally be allowed to do that, but they have millions of users in that CRM that they have unique data for, or I have unique proprietary data as a customer where all my data is living in their CRM. And so the data that's proprietary that can't be used to train a model on is unique to you or unique to the software company. That's a differentiator. So why did Elon Musk just pay $44 billion for X/Twitter? It's because when he bought it, he shut off access to the pipeline of the data. And now XAI, his AI company, can train on X/Twitter data. That's a unique data stream. Distribution is Google has 7 products or platforms with over 1 billion users. That's distribution. Apple, who is like lagging behind everybody, can at some point catch up because they have distribution, billions of users. And so, you know, pick any legacy company, they might not be the innovator in the space, but if they have hundreds of millions or billions of users, they don't have to be first. And so I think that's when I think about data and distribution, it's like you need proprietary data that no one else has that can make the model better for you or for some group of users. And then the distribution is, do you have a massive customer base, a massive membership base, partnerships that you can get the content out through? And so that's like, again, Elon Musk is a good example. He's got Teslas. Like that's a distribution channel for Grok, his AI engine. So you start to think about what is different about them. And the productization is what ChatGPT is winning at. They're crushing people with their productization. Like they're so much better than everybody else at getting products to market that people love. Image generation recently was the one that took off again, the viral moment with that. They just nail it. And then they have 400 million users to get that out to who expect that kind of innovation from them. So I don't know, in an enterprise play, like what is the unique data you have? How can you train a model on your ad spend, on your past campaigns? Like, what can you do to take a model and make it smarter and personalized to your company with your data? And then it might be internal productization about how can we build that into like products our teams can use.
Actually, I think the story for Elon was that he bought X because he was pissed off they didn't have an edit function. I've heard that firsthand, that's the people who were there when he did it. He says, this is bullshit. Let's go buy the company.
I thought it was the bots.
Oh, well, whatever. So, listen, that's another story. So, hey, Paul, listen, you had an agency before, so now you're looking at marketing sort of different. Like, I don't know, you want to make any predictions or sort of suggestions or, hey, close up shop and move on kind of recommendations to agency people today?
Yeah, so I sold my agency in 2021. I do an AI for Agencies Summit. So I once a year put my agency leader hat on and I try and think about how to advise people. I think that, I'm the one who gets called to sit in meetings with executive teams to ask how many agencies they can fire. I hear these conversations weekly. Here's what I think is going to happen. A whole bunch of agencies are going to go out of business, and a whole bunch of other agencies are going to have growth like they've never imagined possible. Because these enterprises aren't figuring this out anytime soon. They are not moving fast. Yes, there's some leaders out there that you can like read case studies about, and it sounds like everybody's figured it out, but most enterprises I meet with don't know what to do yet. They need outside expertise. They need agencies that are pushing what's possible and bringing innovative ideas to the table. I think those agencies are going to be invaluable to enterprises in the future. But if it's an agency that's like has no AI council, is doing no AI education and training, has no formal policies in place, they're not addressing the pricing concerns customers are going to have, they aren't aware that the stuff they create can't hold a copyright if they used AI. Like, if they haven't thought through any of that yet, that's not great. Like, I would move really fast to build an AI council within that agency to start figuring this stuff out. But I have seen a lot of agencies who are moving really fast to innovate here. Some of the big agencies that a lot of those big enterprises work with, super impressive stuff they're doing. And they're building things and they're bringing new ideas to the table and running simulated campaigns through AI personas and like things that most people are like, how are they even doing that? And so I think that's what you got to look for as an enterprise, like as a CMO. You need agency partners that are going to help you push the envelope, that are going to be transparent about how they're using it and their ideas, not hoping you don't call and ask them, can you reduce your rates because we know you're doing it more efficiently. Be proactive. Like, that's how you win. That's how you thrive. And I'm bullish on agencies that are proactive. But the other ones I think are going to have a tough time.
When you say the ones who will have a tough time, it seems like part of it is them not necessarily adapting to the new AI tools and technologies fast enough. But I wonder if some of it's also the orientation around agencies of trying to control the relationship with the person that, or the company that they're representing. Have you seen this sort of lock-in of like, hey, we're so concerned about our economic model that we want to basically become the walled garden or the prison walls for the advertiser? I've seen that a bit, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it varies depending on the agency, what the challenges are, but the pricing model is a fundamental problem. Agencies aren't sure how AI agents are going to work into this and whether the client's just going to build AI agents to do some of the things they're doing, or if they're going to build AI agents to work into their org chart. There's way more unknowns. Like creative. I was actually talking about this recently on our podcast. If you use 4.0 image generation from ChatGPT, you can create ads for anything. Like, better than I could certainly do. And so it was the first time where I actually looked at the creative industry and said, I'm not sure what they're going to do here. Like, because you can I saw an ad, somebody did this, to take a Coca-Cola can, drop it in there and say, hey, put this in this setting. Boom, it does it. Okay, put this sign behind it. Boom, it does it. Put this person in the ad. Boom, it does it. What does that mean to the creative industry? I don't have the answers for that. But it was the first moment where I stepped back and said, I'm not sure what happens now with graphic design. And then Runway ML just came out with the thing. Sora's going to get probably introduced soon, reintroduced again by OpenAI. You're going to have the same thing with video generation. We can already look at VO2 from Google and see what's going to happen. We're talking about 10, 15, 20 seconds of consistent frames, consistent characters on demand. In like 2 minutes, you can build a 10-second like thing. I mean, every ad is, what is it, 3 to 5 seconds per frame? Like they just boom, boom, boom. Like it's all cut up that way. If I could do that as a non-technical, non-creative person, I can create video for whatever it is, 200 a month, 5, whatever they charge me, who cares? Like I have no idea what that means to agencies. Like I really don't. And I'm very curious to try and figure it out. But I think agencies need to be one thinking about this. They need those teams internally that are saying, what do we do? When? Because the models are going to be able to do everything you don't think is possible today, they will do in the next 3 years. And you need to be I talked recently about this idea of a AGI Horizons team. Like I think every company, brands, agencies, they should be looking at it and say, what happens when these models can do this 12 months from now? Because we know they're going to do it. What happens? And not enough companies are asking that question right now.
So wouldn't that lead to more insourcing from the enterprises, except for the fact, as you pointed out, that some of them are moving slow on building their own literacy and capabilities? But it would seem like to your point, you have a massive ability to in-house more and more, because normally what would happen is a marketing manager would brief their agency on what they needed to do. But if you're briefing straight your AI and your AI is creating your images and your messages and so forth, would that be the pattern you'd expect things to go, or would you expect to go a different direction?
I honestly don't know. I think about this one quite a bit, and I think that there are some that will choose to do that they will just start pulling it in internally and saying, marketing manager, you can now do the creative too. We don't need this outside agency to do this anymore. I think in most industries, it's probably more likely that they're going to rely more on their outside agencies. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on headcount in the next 1 to 2 years. The economy is not going to help. It's not an ideal economy at the moment. And I think that could feed into enterprises being very sensitive about headcount, even if the headcount that's there can be more productive and efficient. And so I could see, as we're trying to look out ahead and say, we have no idea. Like we don't know what the org chart looks like in 2 years. The safer play is, well, let's not make any rash decisions on staffing at the moment. Let's just lean more into maybe our outside support. If they're capable of doing these things, we can do 10 times more than we were doing for the same budget. And so I don't know. These are the kinds of questions like I'm really curious to explore. And the problem right now is I don't think enough enterprises even know to ask these questions. Like this conversation may be very jarring to some people that listen to the podcast, because I don't know that they know how disruptive this is going to be, how fast. And so a lot of the enterprises I talk to aren't even asking these right questions yet.
I think they're struggling with the questions because they don't even kind of sometimes know exactly where to start. But I do think I hear from my board level, there's a lot of concern. Hey, Paul, you referenced a couple of times agents and, then obviously agentic. Just for the listener, you want to explain what those are in your experience and so on? You mentioned there was some mystery around them, but
yeah. So the mystery is, it's kind of like if you think about a Tesla. For years, Elon Musk has talked about full self-driving. Basically, we can get rid of the steering wheel at some point. And so I think that there is this assumption that autonomy is binary. It either is or isn't autonomous. And just like in a Tesla, which today is level 2 out of a level 5 scale of autonomy, meaning the human's got to be there all the time, can take over the wheel. The equivalent is, what's the marketer going to do? Like, how involved is the marketer in the campaign that's being automated, in the media buying process that's happening, in the creative that's being developed? And the reality is, the human's still heavily involved. Like, you've got to be able to, the analogy would take the wheel back if it's going wrong, or you have to give it directions, you have to guide it, you have to hit the brakes sometimes. And so an AI agent is a system that can take actions to achieve a goal. So I want to send this campaign to everyone who attended the event last week. If they haven't bought a ticket for the new event, then make sure to personalize it to them. That would be like an ideal agent would then take it and go. It would pick the list, it would personalize it, it would develop it, it would pick the images, it would do everything, and then it would just send it and go and develop the performance report. That's not where we are today. So what happens is the agents often come into the execution realm where they can do the thing, but the human still sets the goal, connects it to the data sources, figures out what it actually wants it to do, oversees what it does, and then like improves the thing. So AI agents is just this kind of like confusing thing because they're not what they were supposed to be. What they were supposed to be was purely probabilistic, meaning I just give it a goal and it goes and figures out the smartest way to do the thing and it does it. They're still largely deterministic, meaning the human still basically has to tell them what to do. Now, we're seeing early forms of what this will look like, though, as they become more probabilistic. And deep research is the best one I can tell people to go see it. If you go do a deep research project on OpenAI, you just tell it, hey, I'd love you to develop a creative brief for a competitive analysis of these 3 companies. I'm really interested in their pricing models, the campaigns they're running, and their brand messaging. And it'll come back, it'll ask you a few questions, and then you say, yeah, that looks good, like, go ahead. It then does everything else. That's the probabilistic part. It's figuring out what sites to visit, how to summarize what's on those sites, what matters, writing the report, giving you the report. That's an early form of like what an agent's going to look like. Now imagine that applied to your brand launch, your email campaign, your ad campaign, where you just go in and say, hey, I'd love to run ads. Here's what we want to achieve. Figure out how to do it. And I don't think we're very far from that. Like, and that's the thing is like agents are newer and they're kind of raw, but they're going to improve really fast, especially when they're custom trained for specific use cases.
You see anybody with good agents around marketing, by the way?
No, like it. I mean, so Salesforce sort of bet everything on this agent force concept. But that happened really fast. Like if people don't know that backstory, Benioff saw it was working for 5 pilot customers, and then like pivoted the entire Dreamforce conference a couple weeks before to be Agentforce. Yeah. Most people in Salesforce weren't even aware where they were working on these agents.
Nobody in that company works on anything but Agentforce. That's what I hear.
Yeah, like that. Nobody. Like in October, it just flipped. Yep.
Yeah, the powerful founder, right?
Yep.
Is Agentforce powerful? Is it working, do you think? Is it really
Benioff tweets a lot that it's working a lot. I think they can. I mean, Microsoft's bet everything on agents too. Like you can go into Copilot and build agents for anything. GPTs, like custom GPTs, are early forms of agents. Dharmesh Shah, a friend of mine, co-founder of HubSpot, has agent.ai, like where you can go in and it's a marketplace, but you can also build agents. I think that when you accept that they're still deterministic, that you're still writing the rules a lot of times, they can work and your expectations are in line. If you think you just give these things a goal and it's going to do all your marketing for you, then you're going to be disappointed.
So I know we're coming up towards the tail end of the podcast here. What do you think are the 2 or 3 things that you would tell people to do tomorrow to be the leader in the next 6 months?
Experiment. Like to me. The future.
Where though, Paul? Where? Like focus them a little bit. I mean, experiment is too vague for people individually, I think, and that makes it back to like, where do you think gold sits?
I mean, to me, if nothing else, just go get ChatGPT. I would pay the $200 a month and I would use like the priority license. You don't have to right away, but pay the $20 a month. So what I mean by experiment is you have to understand first what these things are capable of. So find people you trust and like just get the basics down, take an intro to AI class, do whatever, get the foundation down. And then you have to experiment, say again, ChatGPT every day. Like when you're doing something, when you're building a plan, when you're trying to figure out how to write that letter to an employee or that email to an employee or like how to prepare for an interview or whatever it is, use ChatGPT to do it. Like push yourself to say, oh, I wonder how I could use ChatGPT in this instance. I have to write this abstract for this talk I'm doing next week. I wonder how you could use ChatGPT for this. That's what I mean, because you have to get better at prompting. Like you have to learn how to talk to these things. And when you do that, you start to realize what's possible. Do a deep research project if you haven't done one. Build a notebook in NotebookLM. Like you don't have to do much. Like just pick one of the platforms and just push on it. I think ChatGPT is the best one to do it for.
I just checked my how many tabs I have open for ChatGPT. I have 8 open right now. So to your point, just as a quick check, 8 different conversations going on where I was checking on different things or asking different things or using one of my custom GPTs that I've built to help me with something. So just as a reference for people, look at how many tabs you have open with ChatGPT right now. And if it's less than 8, you're behind.
Is that the metric of success now? We'll put that in people's KPIs.
It's an empirical data point from a sample of one. Right
from
now.
one. I was going. You're a better researcher than that, Rex. I'm surprised. hey, Paul. What's the most interesting conversation you've had on your podcast? By the way, since you've been, you've done a lot of episodes now around this. You've been doing a long time.
So our podcast, the format is we do a weekly. So my chief content officer, Mike Kaput, and I, he basically just interviews me. I curate 40 to 50 sources each week: podcasts, research reports, articles, newsletters, tweets.
No guess?
None yet. No.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
the way
so you're just doing the news. Current news
our weekly is, and then I just introduced the Road to AGI series. We're going to be interviewing guests moving forward.
Okay. Who's the most? Well, then maybe let me maybe I made my question too specific. Who's the most interesting person you've talked to at your event? Like who? What's the most interesting thing you've kind of heard somebody share, talk about, where they're going that really went? Wow, there's a whole nother level. Like Sora felt like to us, or where even just ChatGPT felt like to us the first time we all saw it. Right? What do you think?
Yeah, so Ethan Malik was a keynote at our event. He's brilliant. One Useful Thing blog. I would go check his stuff out. He does an amazing job. He's a researcher and professor at Wharton Business School. The one that comes to mind that's probably relevant to this group is Adam Brotman and Andy Sack. So Adam Brotman is the former chief digital officer at Starbucks, pretty involved in building their mobile app and everything. Andy Sack is an entrepreneur and venture capitalist. So they have a book coming out called AI First, and they interviewed Sam Altman in 2023, and they asked him about AGI and what it would mean to marketers, brand marketers. And he said it's going to do 95% of their job, basically. There was more to the quote. But that became like the introduction to their book. We then kind of shared that for the first time publicly in February of 2024, and it blew up. And that became the basis for my AI timeline. That became the basis for the AGI timeline. So we had them tell the story of being in the room with Sam and asking him this question. And they're like, hold on, man. Like, what does that mean? When is that going to happen? He goes, within a few years. And then they had to the interview ended. And so that was their moment where they realized, oh my God, this is coming way faster than we thought. And as marketers, we have no idea what to do about it. And that was only a year ago, a little over a year ago. So yeah, I think that was one of the more interesting conversations, and that was a keynote at our conference last year.
Do you think OpenAI and Anthropic care about marketing or marketers at this point?
No.
Okay,
I don't think they care about.
I don't know if you have much interaction.
They buy licenses.
Yeah, I mean, but
it's not what they're there
that,
for.
Yeah, it's not the core focus of where they're at, right? Okay.
It's not even core. It has nothing to do with why they're there. The only reason these labs exist is to build artificial general intelligence and then artificial superintelligence. Everything in the process is just a means to an end. It's revenue to raise more money so they can build more data centers so they can build superintelligence. That is why they exist. It's literally in the mission statement of OpenAI. So writing emails for marketers, doing ad copy, that is not what they're there for.
Well, that creates a lot of opportunity for others to build the wrappers around it. So I think that's probably maybe that's an exciting point to end this discussion on. So I'll go ahead and wrap us up with that's it for this episode of Decoding AI for Marketing. I'm Rex Briggs.
And I'm Greg Stuart.
Be sure to catch all our episodes, plus subscribe, follow, rate, and review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app, and check us out on YouTube. You can get transcripts and more information on our website, decodingaiformarketing.com. And to learn more about MMA membership, you can go to mmaglobal.com. Thanks for listening.